Frames are one of the most important concepts in Figma, and everything else builds on them. It's important that you take the time to understand how frames work properly. Frames define the boundaries of your design. They represent your screens. To access frames, you can select F on your keyboard or this icon down here at the toolbar. Once you select it, you'll see options on the side. This is fantastic because now I don't have to Google or remember what size an iPhone 16 Pro Max is. It's right here built into Figma. So imagine that's the size that I need, that's the size I'm designing for. I'm just going to go ahead and select it. And what you'll see is it added this white rectangle to my canvas area. This is your frame. I can see my boundaries. I can see my width and my height over here on the right hand side. You'll also notice this label up top. It's important that you rename your frames to something that makes sense. If you don't, once you get to prototyping, once you have lots of screens in your file, things are going to get really confusing. So get used to good organization practices. You can rename your frame by selecting this label, double-clicking up top, or you can go to the Layers panel, find your frame, and double-click here. So imagine this is my home page. Objects placed inside of frames move together. So imagine I'm just going to do a quick wireframe. This is my navigation bar. Then I have maybe an image down here, and then I want to do a button here. And I'm going to adjust that to a darker gray so we can see it. Okay, so this is the start of my wireframe. Now notice a couple of things. Number one, I made this navigation bar at the top wider than my actual frame size, and it clipped it or cropped it to my frame. You can change that in the contextual menu. So if you select your frame and over on the right under layout, you'll see clip content. I have that selected, so it's going to clip anything that's wider than my frame. But if I unselect it, notice that you can see that full rectangle there. Now, as you build out your wireframes or your high fidelity designs, you're going to notice that most of the time your content is going to extend beyond the constraints of what your frame is. It's important that you keep your width the same, but your height is likely going to change. 90% of the time, 99% of the time, you're going to have to drag this frame down to accommodate for all your content, and that's okay. What happens is, once we prototype, review this on our phones, you'll just scroll to see that content. Pretty typical mobile and desktop behavior. It's important that you use frames properly, and I'm going to tell you a common mistake that I see happen a lot. Something exists on a frame like this, so you think that you're good to go. But then you go to export it, or share it, or prototype it, and this rectangle doesn't show up. That's because it's not actually on the frame. And I can do a quick check by selecting my frame and moving it around, and notice that that box doesn't move with the rest of my content. It doesn't actually exist on the frame. You can also see that in the Layers panel because the rectangle is outside of my frame layers. So what you do to fix that is I can select this rectangle, move it out of the frame, and then move it back in. Notice that it highlights the frame. It also clips the content. This is kind of why I like clip turned on. But now if I move my frame, the rectangle moves with all of my content. So it's important that we spend time practicing putting content onto our frames so that once we start designing complex layouts, we're not running into issues with things not exporting with our frames because it's not actually on it.